Welcome. My name is Melissa Clare. I'm the Executive Manager of Fairness and Financial Resilience at Westpac, which is a fancy way of saying I work with community groups and support financial education and groups of particularly people in vulnerable circumstances at the bank. I'm pleased to be a guest facilitator, in fact, delighted to be here today as part of, and I've been invited because I'm part of the Carers NSW Financial Wellbeing Working Group, and we've been developing a carer financial wellbeing strategy. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm joining the session from today, which is the beautiful lands of the Darkinjung people on the Central Coast, and all of the lands represented by attendees participating this afternoon. Welcome again. I would like to extend my respect to elders past and present and to all First Nations people, including any joining us today on the call. For those of you that joined us for the previous session, we heard from a range of researchers about data that helps us understand the financial impacts of caring. We reflected on the opportunities to better apply this data, and this workshop is one of those opportunities. I was just saying to my friends at Carers New South Wales that there is some really sobering data that we went through, but this is a really an opportunity for us to take a positive, proactive action on how we can improve financial wellbeing for carers. As I mentioned earlier, I'm on the working group led by Carers New South Wales, made up of financial sector representatives and academics and others that have been informing the development of the strategy. And that's part of the second action plan, which builds on work that's been led by Carers New South Wales about financial sustainability previously. My interest in the project is professional, obviously as part of my role, but also personal. I'm very passionate about financial wellbeing, particularly for women. And the stats around the gendered nature of female carers was quite sobering. And also, you know, that a lot of carers can't even find $2,000 a week. And there's lots of things that I'll be implementing in my work at Westpac post these events. The aim of this workshop is to seek your feedback and input into that strategy. So hopefully we've got lots of those thought starters from the research and we can all get together to have a chat about that. So it's going to be very engaging. You won't hear from me too much, but what we would like to start with is using Mentimeter, and anyone who knows me will be delighted that I am not managing any of the technology today. If you haven't used it before, we'll just spend some time explaining how Mentimeter works, and then we'll break out into breakout rooms. You'll be sort of allocated those rooms, and we'll be having a deep conversation about what we can all do around financial wellbeing for carers. So we're just going to share Mentimeter screen. There we go. So all you need to do is with this device or another device, so phone's often easy as well, you can scan that and jump onto Mentimeter. There'll be a code. So just use the device you're on or another device like your phone, which is what I like to do. It just makes it a little bit easier to navigate to the website, enter the code, and the first question should come up. We'll see everyone's responses on the screen as they come in live. Okay, so as you're doing that, the first question should be, what does financial wellbeing look like for carers? I'll give everyone a couple of minutes just to reflect, type in your answer, write 10 answers if you like, because I'm sure that everyone's brimming with ideas. You should be able to see something live soon. Having enough money to pay bills. I think the cost of living crisis is being felt by everybody, but no more than the group of carers that we're talking about today. Financial independence is another one of my passion areas, so thank you to whoever wrote that comment. Looks like someone would like the code back up again, team. I think worrying about money and being able to focus on actually your job, which is caring for someone, is such a crucial piece of conversation that we're going to have today. Thank you. And to live life well. Thank you for whoever wrote that comment. It's so true. Money gives us choices and opportunities. We can talk about that later. Give it another 30 seconds and we might change to the next question and give that another try. Thank you, team. affording the basics, as we all have a right to. Thank you. I think the piece around the older people is very interesting. Thank you. So do we want to change the next to the next question, team, and we'll give that another go? Number 2 is, what do carers need to achieve financial wellbeing? Again, we'll just give you another pause for a minute. We'd love just a couple of your thoughts, if you don't mind. Again, it's just really helpful to get us into the idea generation. Respect. Thank you. Looks like people are saying more money. Couldn't agree more. Flexibility is a really good opportunity for us to explore that as well, and guidance from people who understand the situation. Recognition and value seems to have come up in our previous conversations and again today, and I'm really keen to explore that as well. At Westpac, we are looking at a different project, trying to brief and train our people in understanding what is going on in the world of carers and getting that sort of first person knowledge so that our frontline staff are better able to respond to carers' needs. So lots of support questions, lots of more money, lots of recognition. More money. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I know that money is one of those topics that can be quite uncomfortable. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences. We're now going to move into the breakout room. So I'm just conscious of time and I'll keep this moving because I know that everyone wants to grab a sandwich if they haven't already done so. You're going to be randomly allocated into some breakout rooms where you'll be discussing some parts of the strategy. So your facilitators in those breakout rooms will take you through that piece. All you need to do is respond to the prompt on your screen. So something will pop up, you'll be allocated to a room. If you don't want to join a breakout room, you're welcome to stay in the main session until they're completed, but we would really love you to join, even if it's an observer and you can just have an interactive discussion. I promise you it will be really fun. So that's going to happen for the next 20 minutes and I will see you on the other side. Thank you so much. Welcome back, everyone. Give it a minute as people return. Bye-bye. Looks like everyone is starting to join back into the main room now. We've got about 36. So in the interest of time, we're going to report back per breakout room really quickly and just do a little bit of a recap about what discussions took place in those rooms. I think everyone's back. I'm sorry, I can't see everyone on there, but we'll give it a go from room 1. Sarah Judd-Lamb, are you ready to update from your perspective? Excellent. Over to you. What did you talk about? You were talking about understanding.
We talked about priority area 1, understanding, both carers' understanding of finances and the sector and government's understanding of carers' experiences. One really big thing that came out was work, study and leave are really, really important here. Getting the right policy settings and awareness for those will help carers retain and gain income. So that was kind of a really big one. And then just to throw another one in, I guess, there's many things in our notes, but the other would be just ensuring that we have accessible tools that for people that are not digitally literate. And that will be my very high-level summary.
I put myself on mute, sorry, because we're banging next door, but it sounds like accessibility comes up quite a bit in these discussions. So over to room 2, Melissa Docker, you were talking about priority area 2, which is planning.
Yep, so we had a good discussion about planning in our room, and we spoke to the need to embed information about planning for carers in a whole range of different places that a lot of people don't want to think about the future, or aren't able to think about the future, or may not identify as carers. So thinking about how we embed that in a whole range of places for different types of carers, those who are working, those who may need to rely on payments and are unable to work because their caring role, as well as young carers and what that means for them, and the importance of those financial planning services, of being aware of carers and understanding the complexities of their situations.
And the unique needs, I think, in some regard, would be really good to explore a little bit further when we've got that time later. Room 3, Jade, management, priority area 3. What did your team come up with?
So many things. So definitely, much like Sarah and Mel, have many notes to go through, but quite central is that there needs to be multiple avenues for people to be able to, or carers to be able to manage their finances and plan accordingly. So not just, for instance, what we have our actions around self-paced online options, but also to be able to have essentially a person to be able to financially advise that is both free and accessible, and also to be very reactive to a situation. So whenever there's key sort of turning points, like being able to, remove someone and put from independent living into residential care, or sale of a house, all of those are very, very time sensitive, and they're big life altering decisions. So needing to be able to have a person to talk to work through those questions rather than work through a course. And trying to kind of recognize the ways that the daily situations or the daily costs attributed to, moments of care when you have to go into supporting someone who has to, for instance, have a hospital visit or kind of medical appointments, how those kind of daily expenses fit within sort of management and financial planning is also something that we need to explore a little bit further. Also, thank you, Group 3.
And face-to-face always comes up, doesn't it? It's like when you're unsure, you just want a human being to engage with. I hear it quite a lot working in the bank, that everyone would love to have that face-to-face interaction. And I think in lieu of that, like, what is the other alternative as well? What sort of tools can we provide? So I've got my thinking cap on as well. And finally, room 4, Lucas, advocacy, where my heart is. What are we doing? How are we advocating?
So on the systemic level, and I think in terms of goals that we are advocating, that needs to be advocated for, I mean, of course, sort of the expansion of access to the carer payment, and especially in the mental health space, expanding the base to which carer payment can be accessed, but also importantly, not just momentary payments, but also including super in these demands that we advocate for on a systemic level. On an individual level, advocacy, or sort of building the capacity to self-advocate for carers, runs into the classic problems of carers being exhausted, carers not having time for that, and carers having other priorities. So what really needs to happen according to our group is that there needs to be a strengthening of individual advocacy services, and they need to include navigation services, and increasing of the awareness of available services already. The Carer Gateway can only do so much, but it's a start. It needs to better integrate with formal services. It needs to, all these services need to be culturally and linguistically inclusive. They need to not only be available when the carer is in crisis. At the moment, even when carers are in crisis, at the actual crisis point, nobody knows much about the carer, be it a hospital, emergency ward, etc. The second issue there is that carers very often aren't very perceiving of information because they've got other priorities. So these services need to set in best before crisis, and sort of crossing the silo a little bit. The best strategy, or one fundamental strategy for keeping carers out of financial hardship, is keeping them in work. So one important advocacy goal really is to would be to make it easier to combine work and care, and that starts with advocating to the employers that employers should have a carer strategy and should have policies that allow carers to stay in work longer and be more flexible to the demands of a caring role.
Yeah, that's again, just a few little things to tackle, but inclusion, support, easy to access support, including face-to-face, and balancing, and more money. seems to have come up as a bit of a theme across all of the conversations. But I think I love the idea about sort of the tools that potentially even big businesses like the one I'm working for, we do have sort of a carers focus, but it's very much about linking to resources. So I wonder if there is a carers employment strategy, which I'll go and investigate after this. Thank you so much. We're almost at the end of our session. And what we're going to do now is we're going to end with a couple more questions on the Mentimeter, just to make sure that everyone's voices were heard and understood. We had a lot of research, which was kind of some sobering stats. We've now come together to talk about all the things that we think needs to happen. So using your Mentimeter link again with that code that's up on the screen, if you could let us know what's your highest priority. What are we all going to do first to improve financial wellbeing for carers? And I'll give you a minute. If you could share your ideas, that would be fantastic. And in the chat is the link and code, including QR code again, for those that have misplaced it. I think for me, it will be focusing very much on making sure that our people within the bank are aware of all of the complexities and the time pressure and the emotional toll that caring can take, and making sure that we're there providing the best guidance and advice we can. Advocacy around greater levels of income, acknowledging skills and values. I think the acknowledgement piece has come through in almost every conversation we've had today. The right to work from home or opportunities for this. I think flexibility is going to be key. And superannuation has come up quite a bit. I'm going to speak to our government relations team about that as well. I think that's a really interesting point. Amazing. Another minute if you've got any extra thoughts. Thank you. Fully subsidised and supported education opportunities. I think work, study, leave, flexibility piece is another interesting kind of social policy discussion that we probably haven't had as a country. Awesome. Thank you. Carers leave at work, not to come out. So thank you so much. And just to make sure that there is nothing that is left unsaid, if there's anything burning, please let us know. If there's anything you would like us to discuss, topics or otherwise, you can just pop it in the Mentimeter chat and we'll make sure it's recorded in the notes. Did we not cover something that you wanted to get off your chest, or if you wanted to just put on the table, please do so in the final minute or so. Mental health. We'll come back to you regarding young carers so that we can make sure that that's clear in the research. Family violence piece, thank you for raising that as well. We're obviously very focused on financial abuse and ensuring people are adequately cared for. So that is another great perspective, thank you. And cost of psychological support. We could do a whole session, I think, on the psychological support required for carers. Financial management, risk of abuse. That'll be one I'll take away. Thank you so much, everybody. Look, thank you once again. I know we're in the last couple of minutes. Thanks for participating, sharing your thoughts, particularly over lunch. You know, it's a tough session, but so many of you stayed around, so thank you. I really appreciate it. All of your perspectives, we're going to record all that, but they really do help inform the strategy, which is really important for us to get right. And obviously being the input of lived experience is critical. We are looking at what we can implement, where we can recommend and where we can advocate for change to help carers' financial wellbeing. So don't forget to join us on Zoom again tomorrow. So day 3, final day of the Carer Knowledge Exchange Research Incubator, and we're focusing on sustainable carer policy environment. So lots of more policy discussions. Thanks again. Please also take a moment. Please provide some feedback if you could just do in that last minute before you race off on how you went, how you felt today went, and any other sort of feedback you'd like to provide. And the link will now go in the chat. Thank you, team. We're going to wrap up the session, but as is customary and part of our Carer Knowledge Exchange live sessions, participants, there's a short guided meditation and support with our carer in residence online. We're going to pop some time up there. Thank you once again for joining me today, and thank you, team, for having me and inviting me. It's been an excellent privilege to be involved. Please see on the link if you want that guided meditation over lunch. Otherwise, thanks again for your time and input, and we will hopefully see you tomorrow for day 3.